There are rumors among domestic motorists that the SsangYong Actyon new paintwork is useless and the body iron rods to holes in places, but this is not entirely true. The paintwork, like other representatives of the modern automotive industry, is soft and poorly resists the appearance of small scratches, chips, but does not fall off in pieces from the body. Due to the fact that the body has insufficient body rigidity, with frequent trips over bumps, the tightness of the seams and paintwork in the rear door opening is violated. As for the corrosion resistance of the body, a lot here depends on the year of manufacture of the car and the country of assembly. So, for example, on some specimens, chips do not bloom for years, while on others, after a couple of months, they become overgrown with rust. Among the places that are most susceptible to ginger disease, it is worth highlighting the trunk lid, doors, wheel arch edges, and places uncovered by lockers. Corrosion can also be found on brackets and places where dirt accumulates. When inspecting a car from below, the main attention should be paid to the seams and attachment points of the suspension parts. On the remaining elements of the bottom, if corrosion occurs, it is only superficial. Another disadvantage of the SsangYong Actyon new body is the small thickness of the metal of the outer panels. Among the weak points of external equipment and decor, it is worth highlighting the short service life of chrome on the nameplates and the tailgate bar. It becomes cloudy and climbs. Not too successful here, and plastic elements, fragile. So, for example, with the advent of frost, the fastenings of the license plate light, rear view camera, and fog lights can crumble, and due to the high pressure, the glass washer nozzles can be squeezed out. Not the best quality and plastic protection of the front optics, quickly covered with scratches and becomes cloudy. Things are bad with the wear resistance of the windshield, rubbed, cracked with temperature changes, and door stops. On older specimens, gears and microswitches of door locks often fail. Failures appear. When buying a car with a mileage of more than 150,000 kilometers, it is necessary to check the condition of the door hinges, sag, and headlight connectors should not heat up. SsangYong Actyon new power units. SsangYong Actyon new buyers can choose from a 2.0-liter G20D, 149 HP, gasoline engine, and 2.0 D20F, 149, 179 HP. The last one was installed before 2015, and 2.2 D22F diesel engines. The gasoline engine, although it is SsangYong's own development, turned out to be quite reliable, economical, and easy to repair. Of the weak points of this unit, the use of low-quality gaskets, oil seals, flow, and an oil separator is noted, through the fault of which the intake is actively polluted. Another disadvantage is the low quality of timing consumables, chain, stars, and tensioner. Most often, the tensioner fails, in which after 40,000 km, the piston warps, which weakens, and the chain begins to rattle. If you ignore the roar for a long time, this will lead to rapid wear of the timing guides and can also cause the valves to meet with the pistons after 15-20,000 km. The tensioner here is hydraulic but not fixed, which is why during cold starts there is a risk of chain jumping. Most often, the chain jumps by just one tooth, and this does not lead to critical breakdowns of the internal combustion engine valve meeting with pistons. It simply stops starting. When replacing the tensioner, it is recommended to install a part from Iveco or Diesel Mercedes, since they have a long resource and are equipped with a mechanical lock. Closer to 200,000 km, it is recommended to replace the oil pump chain, since on this run, there is a risk of breaking it at the first start, especially in cold weather. Diesel engines, although they have Mercedes roots made on the basis of OM 662, turned out to be more problematic. The most vulnerable point here is the Delphi fuel equipment, which does not tolerate work on domestic diesel fuel. The problem is aggravated by insufficiently high-quality fuel filtration. For cars until 2013, the injection pump delivered a lot of problems, which, at a low mileage, began to drive chips into the nozzles. In the event of a breakdown of the injectors, there may be problems with their replacement, because after 2-3 years, they stick to the cylinder head. To avoid additional costs in the future, the masters recommend removing the nozzles and cleaning the wells once a year. If the pouring nozzles are not changed for a long time, this will lead to burnout of the pistons and the appearance of cracks in the cylinder head. For versions with a manual transmission, when driving for a long time at low speeds, there is a risk of turning the liners. After 100,000 km, the turbine begins to howl and oil consumption increases. The timing chain uses a chain with a life of about 200,000 kilometers, but its tensioner and camshafts usually require attention earlier. Transmission: the SsangYong Actyon New was equipped with a 6-speed manual or a 6-speed automatic transmission BTR DSI 6M11. Most of the cars presented on the secondary market are equipped with automatic transmission, but mechanics are found only on 35% of cars. The mechanical transmission is reliable and up to 200,000 kilometers only worries about trifles. Closer to 100,000 kilometers, an unpleasant crunch may appear, a knock when the first 3 gears are engaged, which is eliminated by adjusting the shift lever rods. In versions with a gasoline engine, after 40,000–60,000 kilometers, a 2-mass flywheel makes itself felt. Knocks, shocks, and vibrations appear at the beginning of the movement. But for a car with a diesel engine, this part usually serves 150–200,000 kilometers. The clutch kit is on average enough for 140–160,000 kilometers. But the reliability of an automatic transmission largely depends on the year of manufacture of the car. So, for example, in cars until 2013, the linear pressure control solenoid quickly failed, the servo rod wore out, and the brake band was considered a consumable at all. It burned and warped. Later, the manufacturer upgraded the box and problems began to appear less frequently. Quite often, failures also occur due to the fault of electricians, namely, weak electronic components that painfully endure prolonged slippage. If you change the oil in the box less than once every 4,000 to 5,000 kilometers, the Teflon rings will wear out intensively, and by 100,000 kilometers the oil pump will fail. The first major automatic transmission repair is required closer to 140,000 kilometers. The first, as a rule, is the rear planetary mechanism. The bearing falls apart, and the sleeve is welded to the body. This failure is unpleasant in that particles of a collapsing bearing often cause damage to the differential, oil pump, valve body, and friction discs. To protect yourself from such consequences and save money in the future, it is recommended to carry out an intermediate repair of the gearbox with the replacement of seals, Teflon rings, and an internal filter. It is also worth checking the condition of the needle bearing, as its failure leads to wear on the housing. If you follow the unit, avoid long slips and abrupt starts, the box resource will be 200–250,000 kilometers. 4-wheel drive: if you do not use the SsangYong Actyon New as an SUV, there should not be significant problems with the all-wheel drive system up to 150–200,000 kilometers. Among the shortcomings of the system, it is necessary to highlight the tendency of the angular gearbox to leak lubricant, so regular monitoring of the oil level is needed here. Also, do not delay in debt with its replacement. If you do not follow this, the bearings will quickly fail, they begin to howl, the oil seals, they become tanned, and the shafts will begin to wear out more intensively. The electromagnetic clutch is also prone to leakage of lubricant. The stuffing box of the electromagnet is leaking. The outboard bearing of the cardan shaft and its elastic coupling are not famous for significant margins of safety. Closer to 250,000 kilometers, you need to be ready to replace the cardan. The CV joint and the crosspiece become unusable. Among the operational shortcomings, the owners note the untimely connection of the all-wheel drive. Independent suspension is used on both axles of the SsangYong Actyon New in front, MacPherson strut in the back, multi-link. The chassis of this model is quite comfortable, but noisy. On some copies, extraneous sounds appeared after the first 20–30,000 kilometers. In most cases, the problem is fixed after pulling all the connections of the chassis. There are also complaints about the service life of some consumables. Most often, stabilizer struts require attention. On average, they withstand 20–25,000 km. After 40,000 kilometers, the rear stabilizer mounting bracket may begin to collapse. Things are also bad with the reliability of the anthers of CV joints, shock absorbers, ball bearings, the untimely replacement of which negatively affects the life of the parts. Wheel bearings fail quickly enough. They last for 60–80,000 kilometers. The rest of the suspension elements, depending on the operating conditions, can withstand 100–150,000 kilometers. When replacing consumables, it is better to choose analogs, as they are often better than the original. The steering system uses a rack and pinion mechanism, which, depending on the type of engine, is supplemented by power steering, gasoline, or EUR, diesel. As a rule, Cars with power, steering up to 200,000 kilometers, do not have problems with steering, which cannot be said about versions with EUR. In addition to knocks and squeaks that make themselves felt closer to 100,000 kilometers, EUR sensors, a motor, and even wiring can cause problems. If, when the steering wheel is rotated from the extreme position to the opposite, clicks or a crunch are heard, you need to be prepared to replace the lower part of the steering shaft assembly with the EUR, about 1,000 USD. The braking system is less capricious. If you do not take into account the relatively rapid wear of consumables, of the minuses, you can only note the tendency to souring of the calipers. They are afraid of dirt, and the quickly stretching handbrake cable. The quality of finishing materials and assembly of the SsangYong Actyon new interior leaves much to be desired. As a result, extraneous squeaks begin to bother, even on almost new cars. Not happy with the finish and its wear resistance. So, for example, a leather steering wheel braid already by 100,000 kilometers looks as if the car drove about 200,000 kilometers. The equipment control buttons, the seams on the upholstery of the seats, the plastic on the cards, and the dashboard scratch quickly lose their original appearance. Other disadvantages include fragile paddle shifters, glove box hinges, armrest, and visors. Drivers with a weight of 90 kg or more note the rapid subsidence of the driver's seat cushion. As for the reliability of the equipment here, first of all, it is necessary to note the weak air conditioning compressor, which during active operation does not always withstand up to 100,000 kilometers. There are complaints about the reliability of climate control. The reliability of the EGT sensors on diesel versions, handbrake and ESP, are bad. If any of the sensors malfunctions, a garland of errors may appear on the tidy. For cars with a mileage of more than 100,000 kilometers, the all-wheel drive control unit and the ignition lock can fail. The contact group becomes unusable. After 5-7 years of operation, the conductors of the front seat heating system, the drives of the locks, and the rear power windows fail. When buying a car with a mileage of more than 150,000 kilometers, it is imperative to check the condition of the interior fans, engine compartment wiring, and the performance of the wipers. In general, the SsangYong Actyon New is not bad, but it's not worth buying it in a used state with the last money, since with age the car often requires attention and investments, although not large ones. The best option for buying on the secondary are restyled versions with manual transmission. If you are the owner of this car model, please describe the problems that you had to face during the operation of the car. Perhaps it is your review that will help readers of our site when choosing a car.